What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog, back in Standard with a Sultai kicker list. So obviously kicker got a ton of support here in Zendikar. There's a lot of fun stuff. Some of it's obviously a little bit, overcosted, so it's not really a competitive-minded list, but that's not really what we're here to do. We're here to have fun and just try out some different things. So one of the reasons to go into kicker is Verazol, the Split Current, which is kind of an interesting card that was a little bit deceptive when you first read it. When you take a closer look, you kind of realize just kind of the power level is actually pretty sweet here. It's an X, green, and blue for 0/0. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 encounter on it for each mana spent to cast it. So basically, you can just play this for 2 mana for green and blue, and X equals 0, and it still comes down as a 2/2 basically because you spent 2 different colors of mana to cast it. So that's pretty sweet. And whenever you cast a kick spell, you can move 2 +1/+1 encounters on Verazol and copy that spell. So even if it's a permanent, an instant, sorcery, enchantment, you get to copy whatever that is. Obviously, if it is a permanent spell, it becomes a token, as it says here on the end. But yeah, it's a pretty sweet ability. So obviously, if you want to cast this on 2, just get a creature down, maybe start attacking your opponent, or just have a blocker for some reason. You can always do that. Or you can just cast this for X equals 6 later on, and then you can start copying a couple of your kicker spells and really start getting some insane value. So a really sweet card here. Of course, this is legendary, so just 3 copies. Sometimes you will want to remove the counters and maybe have it a backup one, and you want to see this pretty regularly, so you can actually take advantage of it. Some of the cool things we got is a Bubble Snare. We're just playing a 2 of. I feel like just with power creep and everything, there's just so many ways where these kind of effects just aren't nearly as good as they might have even been a few months ago or a year ago or whatever. But there's still plenty of creatures that you want to just tapping them down is good enough to kind of get them out of the way. Bubble Snare for 1 mana as an enchantment. We enchanted creatures adapt during its controller's untap step. So if we've already attacked with it, we can just play this for 1 mana, and it does not untap. Or we can pay its kicker cost and force that creature to tap, and it still has its course does not untap during its controller's untap step. So it's effectively removal here in the form of a enchantment, and pretty efficient at that. Roost of Drakes here is our main payoff, though. Kind of similar in spirit to like a Drakehaven, which we saw in Amonkhet. And of course, we now have an Amonkhet remastered back on Arena. So Roost of Drakes, 1 mana enchantment in blue. If it's kicked, we get a create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying, and whenever we cast a kick spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Kicker cost, of course, is 2 and additional blue, so double blue. Also have Bloodchief Stirs, which is kind of one of the main reasons to go into Sultai colors instead of just Simic, because Bloodchief Stirs is just premier removal, and it has kicker as well, so that fits in perfectly what we're trying to do. Just really good removal. Sure you're familiar with that one by now. Reclaim the Wastes. Kind of interesting here because this kicker cost, unlike all the other kickers, the kicker is just 3 generic mana. Roost of Drakes is an extra blue. A lot of the other ones are an extra whatever its main color is in the main casting cost. You have to play additional color of that kind. So it's kind of interesting. This one is just 3 colorless as its kicker cost. But if you do kick it, you get to search for additional basic land instead of just the 1. And since we are running 3 colors, this is pretty key. And that's a pretty easy way to kind of trigger kicker in the late game as well. Obviously, kicker cost means that we need to invest lots of mana into our spells, but we are getting some decent value off of that. But we still need lots of land, so obviously get up to that point. Into the Roil as a 3 of, just a nice way to kind of tempo our opponent. Sometimes just bouncing something back to their hand is good enough, and especially if you can draw a card, that's pretty sweet. Gives you a nice advantage, and hopefully you make some Drakes and things like that. And if you have like a Verazol, that's pretty fantastic as well. Jwari Disruption. I find that a lot of the times you're not necessarily playing stuff on the earlier turns. You can play the Roost of Drakes maybe on turn 1, and then maybe turn 2 you don't necessarily have a turn 2 play. So having a counter spell like a Jwari Disruption actually fits in pretty well, because obviously in the late game this doesn't really do a whole lot because your opponent's probably going to have a mana open to pay the cost here so that their spell is not countered. But obviously on turn 2 your opponent taps out. Turn 2 or 3, your opponent taps out for something. Then you can just be an easy counter spell. And we are mana intensive, but we also want to kind of take advantage of a few of these dual lands, these spell lands basically, to kind of fit in some additional spells while still kind of keeping our land count relatively healthy. 3, Nullpriest of Oblivion. Obviously, this is better to kick it to get one of our creatures back. Obviously, Verazol doesn't really work really well with this because we're not actually getting the kicker cost the X cost with it, but we still have some other creatures that are worthwhile to bring back. And just 2/1 Menace Lifelink Body is just kind of good enough on its own, really. Vine Gecko here. All 4 of these because it reduces the cost of our kicker spells. At least the first one we cast, these shouldn't cost 1 less to cast. And whenever we cast a kick spell, we get to put a +1 counter on the Vine Gecko. So we definitely want all 4 of these for that cost reduction and the upside of getting multiple counters on it. Coralhelm Chronicler. I've seen like 3 and 4 typically in a lot of these other lists. I'm not a huge fan of this first sentence here. Whenever you cast a kick spell, draw a card, then discard a card. It is nice, but like I said, the kicker spells tend to be pretty expensive for what they do. So you kind of need lands, and you need the spells, obviously. But it does give you opportunity to kind of filter some of those, kind of depend on what you need in that situation. If this were like a May ability, this would be amazing. I would love this card. I probably would be running 3 or 4, but the fact that you like have to definitely leads to some awkward discards sometimes. So that's why just the 2 copies for me. The thing I do really like about it though is Enter the Battlefield trigger. We get to look at the top 5 cards and choose a something with a kicker ability onto it and put it into your hand. So basically it's a 3 mana 2/2 that digs you one of your kicker spells. So it's pretty sweet. Bala Ged Recovery. Just trying to get as many spell lands as we can, and I found like this card is actually pretty decent to kind of get back your kicker spells, since we are kind of limited on some of how good some of them are. Obviously, getting a Bloodchief Thirst back is pretty amazing, and the fact that this gets any card back is pretty amazing. So if you just need a creature, a land, whatever the case may be, you can get anything back with this. So that's pretty sweet. 3 of Murasa Sproutling, so 3 mana 3/3, which is it's okay. Kicker is additional 2. You see that extra green there for the kicker cost, which is it's kind of interesting how they do that for some of these cards. However, when you kick it, you got to return any card with kicker ability from your graveyard to your hand. So again, Bloodchief Thirst, we're trying to get as much value of that as we can and maximize our removal there. We can get like Nullpriest back, Into the Roil, Reclaim the Waste, kind of thin our deck, dig for more lands, things like that. So definitely lots of utility here. Lullmage is familiar. This is a card I was not really too excited about, but ended up on a couple copies here. The life gain, obviously, since we are a little bit slower deck, since kicker is kind of inherently slow. The 2/4 body is pretty nice against the aggro matchups, the 4 toughness, and being able to kind of ramp you up with its tap ability here, and also being able to give you 2 life every time you kick a spell. All those are actually pretty important. But at the end of the day, it's still a pretty solid card, so just the 2 copies. I don't think you need more than that. Inscription of Insight. Not the biggest fan of this card. The kicker is obviously pretty expensive, especially with being a triple blue if you're trying to kick it. However, being able to draw cards is pretty important because we do want to kind of keep our hand full. Sometimes you just need to bounce your opponent's creatures back to their hand as well. Obviously, we'd have Into the Roil and things like that. But we still need as much interaction as we can, especially in the Sultai colors when we're a little bit limited on some of our removal. Inscription of Insight kind of helps us out to either draw cards or kind of tempo our opponent and kind of buy us time to kind of set up for our kicker spells and things like that. Hagra Mauling, kind of a similar role here with it being a land or a removal spell. And then we still have the 3 copies of Verazol, of course. Mana base here, we have 4 islands since we have some pretty intense kicker costs in blue. Obviously, we want the Roost of Drakes potentially on turn 1 as consistently as possible, or at least be able to have the double blue to kick it on turn 4. Same thing here with Inscription of Insight and things like that. We want to be able to make sure we have plenty of blue mana. 3 Swamp, 3 Forest, 2 of each of the temples, and then of course all 4 of the triomes for as much fixing as possible. It is a pretty janky list, but we still run this in some best of 3 unranked. So we got a couple Soul Guide Lanterns. We do need some Graveyard interaction. 3 Agonizing Remorse for the control and mid-range type matchups. A couple Skyclave Shade because it does have a kicker cost to it, and this is going to obviously come in handy if your opponent's just running lots of removal, because this can just come back every time you play a land. You get to cast this out of your graveyard. So it's pretty resilient creature here. A couple of neutralizes. Again, we don't necessarily have turns on the plays on the early turns, so having like a Jwari Disruption or a neutralize on turns 2, 3, even 4 sometimes can nice just hold up that counter spell and maybe take out your opponent's important creature or whatever the case may be, and then you can kind of follow up with the kicker spell on the following turn maybe. A couple of Soul Shatters, some additional cheap interaction here, especially gets around indestructible, hexproof, things like that. Like we're running the Cragplate Baloth ourselves. It is pretty steep, so just 1 copy here. And also, we do want 1 copy of Extinction Event to kind of deal with, since we are somewhat limited on our removal. So we have the Bloodchief Thirst, and we have the couple copies of Hagra Mauling, which will sometimes need to be played as a land. Obviously, we can get the Bloodchiefs back out of our graveyard in certain situations. with like Bala Ged Recovery, things like that. But we still need ways to kind of deal with go-wide strategies like Scoot Swarm and things like that. And a couple of Broken Wings, just the flexibility here for removal on creatures with flying to kind of keep the airs clear for our drakes, and also hit artifacts and enchantments. That's the list. We'll jump into some matches. All right, against Cephaladrone 79. Play first. Sweet. I guess we keep it. We have Into the Roil here to kind of tempt our opponent. We do have black mana to Bloodchief's Thirst as well, and we also have the Roost of Drakes potentially. So turn 2 we can Drakes plus Bloodchief's Thirst, depending on what our opponent does. So obviously we do need green to get a Reclaim the Waste. Nothing doing for our opponent. I'll go and play out Drakes here. And I think we actually play the Hagra Mauling since we have it this early. We do have at least a removal spell and a pseudo removal spell here into the Roil, if you will. So we'll see if this is good enough. Obviously, we do need to find some more blue mana and even some green. All right, so they're on a life gain list. I think we should go ahead and kill that. And then we still have Into the Roil open. Obviously, we're just kind of looking for lands here. The thing about this deck is we are trying to kind of find that thin line between the proper number of lands and spells without kind of overdoing it. We still need plenty of lands to obviously play our kicker spells, but then we still need enough kicker spells to where it's actually valuable. Chronicler. I guess we just fire that off. Let's get a creature down. They probably do have some removal, but that's fine. I think we can go ahead and do the Nullpriest. That's fine. Nothing else. We have Roost of Drakes plus Nullpriest next turn, I guess. But I'm assuming our opponent's going to have a creature here pretty soon. So yeah, sometimes the early turns can be a little bit of a struggle like this if your draws aren't ideal. And obviously the Coralhelm Chronicler is a little bit awkward because if you are stuck on lands, it doesn't really help you out in that regard. I guess we attack here. That's 2 toughness. We just bounce it. I think we just get our Drake and our Nullpriest down. But once we do get our lands going, then we're pretty much set. Just kind of the tricky part is just trying to find a way to survive some of those early turns. Obviously, we do have plenty of cheap interaction with Into the Roil being 2 mana, Bubble Snare being a single blue mana, and Bloodchief Thirst being potentially 1 mana, depending on what your opponent's creatures are like as far as the casting cost. Obviously, Nullpriest does help with the lifelink here as well. And our opponent's gotten off to a little bit of a slower start, which is what we want to see. Like I said, this is not very competitive, so that's why we're just doing the unranked. We're looking at both of our creatures. 2 mana open. I'll block. Let's see, 2 mana. They can give it a lifelink. That's fine. It will trigger the Indulgent Petition, but it does tap them out, I guess. And gets rid of their creature, especially before they have mana to give it indestructible. Well, there's a Triome. That's pretty nice. Just need to get that down. And I think we just hold open our mana. Although 2 Roost of Drakes out, might just hold off on Into the Roil. Alternatively, we could just Reclaim the Waste since we are a little bit stuck on mana. We'll see what our opponent does here. Okay, they just go for removal. That's fine. They're not adding to the board, so I think we just Reclaim the Waste here and try to make sure we find lands. Probably grab we have 2 black sources, so we'll grab another green and another blue. Obviously, the Triome is pretty sweet. They're in Orzhov colors, so they could have that, which is annoying. But we still have a Roost of Drakes out on the battlefield, which is why we're running all 4. Definitely want to get as much value off of those as we can. I guess a life gain deck, you know, into Light of Hope makes sense. We'll go and fire this off for a kicker, please. Thank you. Green and blue. Do we tap down this Patrician? I think we do. Can't always be greedy and just wait to kick stuff. Sometimes you have to kind of just fire stuff off. That's pretty much guaranteed 1 life gain right there. Although the food token is already 3 lives to trigger the Patrician. So Bake the Food certainly synergizes nicely with that. So we have 6 mana next turn. We can Nullpriest and bring back the Chronicler. That's probably not a bad play. Get another kicker spell. Looks like they have some more enchant removal. They're deciding between maybe the Roost or getting this Bubble Snare off their creature. That's kind of what it looks like to me anyways, but we'll see. They've got plenty of mana at this point. Revitalize. Even got the Birth of Melithus. I guess it is kind of annoying because it does put up a 4 toughness blocker against a lot of matchups. We do have the Flyers, so we're not too worried about that, but obviously we do have you know, creatures on the ground we're hoping to get through with. Of course, they go lifelink on the Boot Nipper. I think we just fire this off for a kicker. Get another Drake. And bring back the Chronicler. Just to draw something. I guess Into the Roil, we already have a Sproutling. And we have kind of a free attack in the air for 2. So do need to keep our opponent's life total in check. Obviously with a Patrician out, they can still burn us out with a bunch of life gain since they're very heavily synergized in that regard. And this is kind of what I was talking about with a Bubble Snare. Sometimes it's just not quite good enough. You still have activated and triggered abilities on these creatures, and just tapping them down and things like that just isn't quite good enough. And obviously there's tons of enter the battlefield triggers thanks to power creep, since like every creature just has does multiple things now. Alright, our opponent has second Bake into Pie. So I have all the food tokens here. So you can trade a Drake since it was basically free. Otherwise they're just going to keep attacking and gaining life turn after turn after turn. So just get it off the board now so it doesn't have the ability to make future life gain triggers. We have Flying and Menace, so we can swing into that pretty easily. I think we fire this off and get back the Roost. We'll just play the Roost. So we can keep attacking through the air, so I think we just hold on to the Bloodchief Thirst. If we have to, we might just have to fire this off on the Patricians so they don't just burn us out with life gain. Although they're running low on resources. Alright, with a Boot Nipper out, we could always blow that up as well. So they get one more food token here to gain some life and trigger all the way up to 30, which is super annoying, but so we can fire this off. Do it for kickers to get a bunch of things. Maybe it is worth just getting this Patrician off the board since we are down to 11. This give us an excuse to kick a spell. Bloodchief's Thirst. Not going to say no to that. Let's swing all here. See how they block. Obviously, Nullpriest has Menace. Okay, opponent doesn't know how to read. Now they're figuring it out. Do we just kill that? Yeah, I think I'm fine. Yeah, I'm okay with that. They're getting a little bit of life when we get their lifelink creature off the board, and we'll just hold open these Into the Roils with kickers so we can just make a bunch of drakes, hopefully. Silver Smoked Ghoul. That's pretty annoying because they can just keep getting it back turn after turn. Let's see, you need to gain life though to get it back. They just go for the card draw right away. Not really sure about that. I think you just want to block, although they do have the, of course, the wall here. I think we'll fire this off. Bouncing it essentially acts as removal, and we still have 4 mana open to kick another Into the Roil, depending on what our opponent does. Could keep a land just in case we find a Coralhelm Chronicler, but we're gonna go ahead and drop that. Like, we're in a pretty aggressive spot here, just kind of keep going pedal to the metal. Another birth. Okay, they got a plains, but they have no wall until next turn, so we still get a push through for quite a bit of damage. Let's see, we're at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We're already at 15 damage, so yeah. Opponent is just dead here. Just trying to double check here to see if we need to actually fire this off on the maybe the birth just to get some additional drakes, but unless I'm doing my math wrong here. Let's see, 4, that's 8, 10, 12, 15. There we go, -1. Perfect. So you see how we can get off to a bit of a slow start, but once we get going, we are just fine. Obviously, Broken Wings looks pretty strong in this matchup. Question is, what do we take out? I guess the 4 toughness could be a little bit more relevant, especially if they're burning us out the life gain as well. So maybe we just take out the Chroniclers for the Broken Wings. Obviously, being able to hit enchantments or the Patrician is pretty good. Didn't really see too much removal from them. We'll just double check. Obviously, they do have enchantments. They do have the Silver Smoke, which we may want to have some graveyard interaction for. I'm not sure it's totally worth it. Some cheap creatures here at 2 and 3. Don't think we need Extinction Event or Neutralize unless they're bringing in like a Shadow of the Skies maybe. Then we want Skyclave, but maybe we just run it back. Like that. Obviously the Silver Smoke could be pretty annoying. Alright, I think they have ways of, too many ways to get around Bubble Snare, so let's go ahead and do that. Obviously in Orzhov colors, they could have ways also, besides not just Silver Smoke Ghoul, could have other ways to kind of bring stuff back out of their graveyard. Could be running the the Nullpriest themselves, since it does have lifelink. We're missing blue, but we do have plenty of lands. We do have a removal spell and at least a scry. So I guess we keep it. And just hope we find a single blue and we can just start dropping these Roost of Drakes for 1 mana. And of course it's a swamp. So we have all the land, so once we find more stuff here, we should be good to go. We do need some blue mana. Boot Nipper down here on 2 and start swinging in with life gain. The Familiar also needs blue, so maybe we should not have kept this hand. We have mostly blue, or slightly leaning towards blue mana sources. We have temples, we have more islands than other basics, and of course the triomes as well, but Opponent's kind of covering out pretty well here, so we'll see. Being stuck on blue mana might be our downfall. Obviously, the Silver Smoke Ghoul represents one more point of damage, so it's tempting to block that, but if they do swing both, and we have an opportunity to block, I think we just block the Boot Nipper with the Nullpriest. Shadow Spear and Tavern Swindler. So they've been able to apply pressure every single turn, and we've gotten off to a really slow start. Yeah, they're not really gaining life here, so I guess we do that. Get the Familiar down. That'll kind of help us fix our mana as well. Also give us some life gain. We can kind of save the Hagra Mauling a little bit for like a Patrician maybe. Or a Veto. My opponent was curved out really well here. We're starting to recover from a bit of a slow start, which is nice. Opponent is at 23. I think we need to deal with this Speaker of the Heavens, because obviously that can get pretty insane value. And I guess we kick this, gain some life, make it 2-2. Nice thing about these tokens is it's kind of a repeatable effect, so we don't mind obviously trading them because we don't necessarily invest in that creature specifically. And obviously we have the option to continue kicking spells. Probably just fire off the second Roost of Drakes with Kicker again. And then just hold up Hagra Mauling for like a Veto or Indulgent Patrician, since those are the real threats that are going to punish us with all their life gain. With Resolute Rider and things like that, I kind of wonder if they're running like a Gray Merchant. Obviously, the life gain on that with Black Devotion could be pretty brutal with Patrician and or Veto out. Well, keep trading our tokens just to kind of protect our life total. Fire this off with Kicker. Now we have 2 blue sources. And we also keep our Lullmage's Familiar open. We got a couple of Drakes now. Pretty decent blockers. We're in an okay spot. Obviously, we do need to maybe find some card advantage. Which is kind of what the blue insight is here for. Okay, opponent has removal on the Familiar, which is annoying, but we did gain some nice life off of that. So, and it also gave us the additional blue we needed when we didn't have it to kick some of these enchantments. No attacks. As far as I don't just put this Shadow Spear on the Resolute Rider, that would represent quite a bit of life. So we'll just hold up the Hagra Mauling. I'm assuming they're going to equip the Shadow Spear here at some point, especially as they run out of cards. And once they do that, we'll let them go to combat, and then we'll just kill it before obviously damage is dealt. See if they swing with anything else. Might give them confidence to kind of do a bigger attack. So we'll just kind of give them an opportunity to make a mistake, basically. Three mana open, 2 cards in hand. Do they want to play a spell or just nope, they go straight to combat. Well, we'll leave our Hagra Mauling open still. They have 2 mana to give it lifelink. That's fine. We'll go ahead and kill that. They get their Silver Smoke Ghoul back. Like, I don't know why you don't just play Shadow Spear, because then you get over this Drake. Oh, wait, oh, they had 3 mana to give it indestructible. Miscounted there. I don't think Disruption does anything at this point of the game. Doubt our opponent taps out, so let's get it down there for additional land. Obviously, we're still looking for some card advantage here. But not really feeling too confident. They've got a pretty decent engine going with Shadow Spear, Silver Smoke Ghoul, things like that. Eventually, this Tavern Swindler is going to start hitting for 6 life gain and make things really difficult for us. Even if they lose it through life, it doesn't really matter because they have so much potential life gain. And it's just a matter of time before they find, yeah, something like that. So we got a couple draws here before this game is really over, but it's definitely slipping out of control here. Guess we should have killed the veto in response. We have to kill the 4/2 here. Alright, so now we kill Veto. But we're still not in a good spot. We're in top deck mode. If it's a land, we're pretty much dead. Alright. Yeah. We're just too far behind at this point. 32 life. There's no way we're going to come back before they find additional ways to put us out of our misery. I think we actually do want the Extinction Event. I mean, if they curve out like that again, then we need ways to deal with that. Obviously, they have plenty of 2 and 3 drops, but exiling the Silver Smoke Ghoul could be pretty effective. They have lots of important 3 drops here. So I'm thinking, unfortunately, we just kind of have to. We have 2 lands, but 2.5 because we do have Reclaim the Waste to kind of dig us for a additional, probably blue source here. We have the Temple. And obviously blue mana is pretty key. They have the Extinction Event, so we can kind of slow play it here as well and kind of see what our opponent does. Oh, that's a Temple of Mystery. I still think we want a island. And go on Temple of Mystery, I guess. Broken Wings is fine. Probably just Nullpriest here, just kind of give us a little bit of life gain and some protection, kind of help them, encourage them to play more creatures, then kind of wait and drop this Extinction Event. So obviously I do have plenty of 2 drops, so we could consider that as well, but we just want to be a little bit patient here. Yeah, probably just need more, probably just want land still. Could island and double Vine Gecko, and then just make sure Extinction Event for odd. I mean, those 2 creatures are annoying, but they're not like super impactful. Okay, my dude, it's game 3 and you're still reading my cards. Trying to decide if you want to attack. I mean, I think if anything, you want to wait until you have. Then we'll go and fire off these double geckos. If we do find a kicker spell, it'll be pretty impressive. Oops, there we go. And we'll just stay back on defense. Just gonna let our opponent add to the board, and hopefully we can get an Extinction Event and get a couple creatures off. Obviously the Boot Nipper and Tavern Swindler are annoying, but it's mostly the 3 drops that we're worried about. Patrician, Silver Smoke Ghoul, Well, Resolute Rider is pretty annoying, but it does have 2 toughness, so it's not super... It's not like we have other ways of dealing with it. And our opponent's not attacking, so that's good. Alternatively, we could have just held these geckos and then gone for Extinction Event if we knew they were going to have a 2-drop into 2-drop into 4-drop. Obviously, Extinction Event on even would be pretty sweet right now, but I don't know that it's worth doing it now that we have... would have also be losing 3 creatures of our own. We have 4 mana to give it Indestructible. So I think we just blocked the Boot Nipper here. Take 4. Pay 2, give it Lifelink. Do need lands, but I think we just kind of cycle here. No Lifelink, so they have something else they want to play. Okay, I have no idea why they didn't activate Lifelink or kill something or do anything else. Go and fire this off. Even if we have to do end up exiling on even, you know, we can continue making more tokens. But we are growing our geckos now, so this should be pretty good for us. Broken Wings open, so if they do find some enchantment removal or Patrician, we can at least kill those. So Rider is pretty annoying, especially with open mana. I have no idea why they didn't activate the Rider there and they didn't kill anything. They didn't play anything else. We have an enchantment on the board they could have potentially targeted. We can obviously blow up the Birth if we want to, but it doesn't really seem worth it. We do need the blue insight to give us some card advantage here. That would be, that'll go a long way. See, 3-man open, I just need 3 to give Indestructible. That's pretty annoying. And we could block just to prevent damage and just force them to pay, but... You know, rather wait and find the, like a Hagra Mauling and then try to block, and then when they go to activate, we can kill it in response. Go and fire this off, kind of thin our deck a little bit. Did I not? Oh yeah, Vine Geckos. I was like, wait. Only 2 mana. We got double cost reduction here. Yeah, I think we'll mostly stay focused on blue and green. So we have plenty of black manas open to us. Yeah, we'll swing all. Why not? That's 10 damage. I'm just going to take it. So they have plenty of life gain, so they can afford to kind of take these hits to an extent. So many cards in hand still. I mean, they're just playing it so slow here, so conservative, but the 4-power creature is still giving them a nice advantage, so they don't even have to add to the board. Obviously, we're not representing a sweeper since we're got these 2 geckos out and a couple drakes. Griffin Airy is pretty annoying because they can make 2/2s of their own. So I think we Broken Wings that before they start making 2/2s. They gain 4 life. Well, we'll destroy the Airy. And they have 2 mana, so now they can't give the Resolute Rider Indestructible. So we're hoping they would try to fire something off. So that's part of why they were been playing so conservative, leaving mana open. I guess they valued the life gain over destroying our enchantment, which might have been a mistake. So maybe a little bit greedy on their part, because they get rid of the Roost of Drakes and we don't have these 2/2s and we can't really attack into them. So no 3-drops from them still, even though we've found our Extinction event sideboard. Obviously, not playing these geckos and being an Extinction event this would obviously force them to kind of play things a little bit differently as well. So they have 2 mana, or 2 mana, so they cannot give that lifelink. So we're gonna fire this off and give it lifelink, but not indestructible. So we'll grow our geckos, make another Drake, and yeah, put the pressure on. So finally we're able to find a way to deal with that. We're down just 1 card. All of our creatures are even since the tokens are even, so even if we do need to just kill a single thing with the Extinction event, it might just be worth it. We'll see. Opponent's been super conservative. Gain 2 more, back to 10. Scoured Barrens up to 11. These life gain strategies are always pretty annoying because you just push damage across and then they just gain it right back, and it just it's pretty frustrating if you don't have the right answers at the right time. And 4 more life there. Isn't that swell? Well, this is a obviously a triggered ability, or I guess it would be a static ability. You're attacking? I'll take that. Cool. Maybe they have a Shadow of the Sky, but then why would they... I don't know. I'm not sure what that was all about. Jwari Disruption. There's so many cards in hand. I wonder if they're going to try to do multiple spells, so maybe we keep it 1 more turn. We have enough mana in play anyway, but probably doesn't matter, but maybe they have to tap out here to play multiple spells. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lands. 7. So we're hoping they miss a land drop there maybe and try to play a couple of 3-drops. Although if they do a couple of 3-drops, then we just Extinction event. But our opponent's playing this super slow. They've actually activated that. Don't see that very often. On the other hand, we have 19 minutes remaining. So 2 mana open. See what they fire off here. And counter their next 2 mana spell. We can Extinction event the Silver Smoke Ghoul, which would should give us lethal. We have a counter magic backup if they tap out for... Could be a Light of Hope, which put them up to 10. They can sack it to draw a card also, but then we're swinging for lethal. Odd. Cool. Alright, super grindy game there, so I think we'll unfortunately just kind of have to wrap it up there, but it's a pretty good showing for the deck. I think it really exemplifies kind of how the deck operates in terms of how it can be a little bit slow in the early turns, but once you kind of get going, you're in a pretty good spot. Obviously, some matchups can be a little more difficult. Oh, pretty cool rewards. Got a pack opening. Let's celebrate with a pack opening. What do we got here? Tajuru Paragon. I think it's like the 3rd or 4th copy now. Pretty sweet. Cool. Alright, so obviously Sultai Kicker, just kind of a fun, janky little deck. Ultimately, Simic might just be better because it is definitely was challenging to kind of tune this to a 3-color list and kind of get the numbers kind of dialed in. But I feel pretty good with how we're at with the distribution of like the 1s and 2s and the 3-ofs here and there. They'll kind of fill their role in different matchups, and just trying to find the right split of lands versus spells, but also taking advantage of some of these dual lands / spell cards. So you don't hate flooding out, because obviously we do have Verazol as an X spell, and the kicker costs can be pretty steep. But obviously, if you're just drawing nothing but lands, then that kind of feels bad too. But I think we found a pretty nice middle ground here. It is Magic, so there's still going to be variants where things don't line up the way you want them to. But we have lots of cheap interaction with the Bloodchief's Thirst. Into the Roil at least slows your opponent down. Bubble Snare, you can do this for a single blue mana if you have to, after your opponent's been attacking into you, just so that creature doesn't untap. They still obviously get any triggered abilities or whatever else the card might do, but at least you're always preventing damage, which can often be worth it right there. And then Roost of Drakes, being able to play this on turn 1 or 2, depending on if you have like a tap land in the early game, and then just kicking this later. Like, you don't care to play this on the early turns, because you're going to be kicking lots of spells later on and getting value off that way. And then once you get going, you're just going to keep making 2/2s. And if you need to, you can just chump block with them. And then once you've kind of cleared the board from your opponent's side and you feel comfortable, then you can start attacking in. And then hopefully you can find a Inscription of Insight to at least draw a couple cards. The scry is pretty huge, because obviously you don't necessarily want to draw lands if that's not what you're looking for. Or if in emergency, you can just bounce creatures back to your opponent's hand just to slow them down. Sometimes that little bit of tempo might be good enough. It is 2 creatures, so that it can be pretty impactful, obviously. The Coralhelm Chronicler, the Into the Battlefield trigger is pretty sweet, but obviously I'm not the biggest fan of the having to draw and discard every time you kick a spell afterwards, because obviously we're doing that quite a bit. And obviously there's not too many times where actually I'm happy to actually discard something. I want to actually keep the things I have in hand generally. But yeah, feel pretty good with how this list has been tuned. Sideboard feels pretty helpful as well. Definitely took a little while to kind of get these numbers where they are. So hopefully you guys can take this one for a spin. It's fairly budget friendly as well. Nullpriest is a rare, but it's a super good card. Definitely should be looking to add this into your collection. The Coralhelm Chronicler just has a 2 of. Obviously I do have my misgivings, so if you don't have any of these or just have the 1 copy, then you can certainly slot in something else. But for the most part, everything else is a common or uncommon. The blue Insight is pretty good, so you should definitely try to have this. There is the 3 mana draw 2 that has a kicker of like additional 3 to draw like 3 cards instead, which is not very good. But if that's all you have, you can run that instead. Hagra Mauling, definitely something you should have in your collection. Verazol is a rare as well. Definitely fun for at least Brawl to have 1 or 2 copies of this. And then if you don't have 1 or 2 copies here, that is fine as well. You can just kind of figure out another creature in Sultai colors to slot in, maybe another Nullpriest or something. I don't know, whatever sounds good to you. There's not really too many good options as far as kicker synergy, but maybe like a Pelucanos, just because it's a big beefy creature for 4 mana. I don't know. And then obviously just 2 of the temples, so that's pretty budget friendly. And then the Triomes, definitely something you should be working to add to your collection. But if you don't have enough of these, you can always run Fabled Passage instead. But definitely the utility on having access to multiple colors is pretty important in this list, so that would be ideal. But yeah, that's the deck. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, make sure you jank with purpose. Actually, almost forgot here. Do have a code from pre-release kit that I've been meaning to get up on screen for you guys. So whoever was patient enough to get this far, if you're the first person, please help yourself. There we go, to this code, and hope you get what you need. Maybe you can craft this list. There we go. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.